Hello everyone, my name is Devin Mahavar and you are watching English with David. Today we have this session for literary criticism. Okay, so we'll be talking about literary criticism in Romantic Age. I have prepared one slide. One PPT. I'm going to share that here. Just give me a moment. First of all, let me adjust myself. Can you see now? I hope it's visible to you. Uh, Here, literary criticism, romantic criticism, right? So, yesterday we talked about the definition of William Wordsworth about poetry. Then another definition, poetry is the breath and primary spirit to all knowledge. Biography of Literaria, 1817, as we already talked about primary, secondary imagination, and the fancy. Fancy word is also mentioned here. Willing suspension of disbelief by Wesley Coleridge. We also discussed this, right? Then we have Defense of Poetry by P.B. Shelley. P.B. Shelley gave defense of poetry, and he talked about he replied Thomas Love Peacock when he wrote the Four Ages of Poetry, and he said poetry. He gave so many derogatory remarks to poetry. So P.B. Shelley has to come in defense and wrote Defense of Poetry in 1821, but published in 1840. Right. He said poetry as expressions of imagination, poetry as morality, poets as a legislator poetry, and truth, eternal value of poetry. Right, John Keats. Then John Keats came with his letter. Three letters are very important. First letter to George and Tom Keats. They were his brother in 1817. There he gave the term negative capability that the we the poet should not force the ending, or poet should not try to resolve all the conflict in the work. Okay, he praises William Shakespeare for his place that he let his character be in ambiguity. He doesn't try to solve forcefully. Okay, so this is a concept by John Keats in Negative Capability, 1870 December letter. Then second letter came letter to John Hamilton Reynolds about chameleon poet in 1880 February, where he said poets should be like chameleon. They shouldn't their ego should not come into the work. They should be like chameleon. They should go write the work and come out of that character, right? Like he praises William Shakespeare, Hamlet, Lady Macbeth, Othello. He writes and come out without leaving his own personality, right? In short, self letter to Richard Woodhouse, where egotistic sublime impersonality theory he gave. He criticized William Wordsworth, saying William Wordsworth is egotistic sublime. Why he said this? Because he leaves his impression in the world, and he doesn't let his uh, ego out of his work. So he said we should not have this egotistic sublime. So he criticized William Wordsworth, and but praises William Shakespeare. Right. So here it's just realism and Victorian age. We discuss Victorian age realism. Realism means life, showing life as it is. Okay, without exaggeration, fantasy, imagination. They show the struggle of middle class people. They show the truth of society. Right. They tell the different setting, manner, clothes. Talk about it. Realistic. They don't show the perfect heroes nor perfect villains, but they show the reality, poverty, industrialization, classification. And if I talk about writers, Charles Dickens, George Eliot, and Anthony Trollope, these were the writers mainly. Second is naturalism in Victorian age. Naturalism is an extreme form of realism, right? So here, there they were talking about middle class. Here they talk about the lower class, right? So they say the naturalism. They say nature decides our destiny. Heredity decides, environment decides. So they generally focus on nature, heredity, environment. That biological factors also decide our destiny, our fate, and we are controlled by these things. Right? Here they talk about pessimism. They talk about lower class life, harsh realities, underprivileged people, and Yeah, did you enjoy? Thank you so much. Let's end this streaming. I hope you enjoyed the session.